In the early hours of January 20th, 1906, the SS Valencia, a steamship bound for Seattle, became the setting for one of the most harrowing maritime disasters off the Pacific Northwest. Designed as a modest passenger liner, the Valencia was never meant for rough waters, yet on this journey, it would find itself at the mercy of the unforgiving seas near Vancouver Island. On January 20th, 1906, at 12:50 a.m., the Valencia was sailing in dense fog on her way from San Francisco to Seattle. She carried 108 passengers and crew through the Strait of Juan de Fuca, which separates Vancouver Island from Washington state. Due to the thick fog and turbulent waters, visibility was poor, and navigation was a challenge. The captain, Oscar M. Johnson, expected calm waters and planned to navigate by dead reckoning, relying on previous experience rather than sight or the rudimentary navigational tools available at the time. However, under these conditions, even experienced mariners struggled. The weather worsened, and by 11:50 p.m., the ship was buffeted by fierce winds and high swells. It veered off course, closer to the rocky coast of Vancouver Island than intended. Shortly after midnight, the Valencia struck a submerged reef with tremendous force, ripping a gash along her hull. The ship's lower compartments quickly flooded, and Captain Johnson ordered passengers to the deck as lifeboats were lowered. In the chaos, only 3 of 7 lifeboats were successfully launched. The others either capsized or were wrecked against the jagged rocks, taking with them passengers who had hoped for a chance at survival. The scene on deck was one of desperate panic. The freezing waters surged over the decks, and as the ship tilted sharply, passengers clung to the railings, hoping for rescue. Captain Johnson and his crew tried to maintain order, but the waves pounded the ship relentlessly. Cries and prayers filled the air as waves carried some lifeboats out to sea, leaving the Valencia battered against the reef, inching closer to sinking. Through the night and into the following morning, the Valencia held fast against the rocks, but hope began to fade. Rescue ships arrived within sight but were forced to turn back due to the violent seas and jagged coastline. The Valencia continued to take on water until, around 5 p.m. on January 23, it was overwhelmed by the sea. The few survivors later described seeing the ship's bow disappear beneath the waves while passengers held each other and sang hymns in a final act of courage. Of the 108 people aboard, only 37 survived. The tragedy led to demands for better navigational aids and the construction of the Pachena Point Lighthouse to prevent further disasters. Yet the legend of the Valencia endures in local lore. For years, mariners reported ghostly sightings of the Valencia adrift off Vancouver Island, a spectral warning of the dangers lurking in the Pacific Northwest. The SS Valencia disaster remains one of the most haunting shipwrecks on the North American coast, symbolizing the ferocity of the sea and the resilience of the human spirit.